Hello, imaginary friends, and welcome to the Imaginary's Literary Podcast. I heard from a couple of different agents and in some books that I've read that the ages of the people who are reading the book will want to read about people who are actually like older than them for middle grade and for young adult. That like blows my mind.
Yeah, I think we talked about that. Yeah,
We
middle
did.
grade and young adult.
It's also in this book that you told me to read too. So I
Oh,
gotta
you're
give a little
right.
plug.
It is in there. Yeah,
I gotta give that a little
yeah.
plug. It was fantastic. Great read. Okay, before we really get into the discussion, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, especially if you know somebody who is writing and is looking to get published. Make sure you share it with them. And don't forget to comment. It really helps us out a lot. So on with the conversation. Because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, a 12-year-old would of course want to read about a 12-year-old. And it's like, no, they want to read about a 15, 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? And it makes sense, like I was obsessed with my older brothers and older sister, like I loved them and I was more interested in their life than my life at the time. Can you address that a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about the ages that, middle grade and young adult, how they want the characters have to be older?
With middle grade, like I said, I don't publish middle grade, but 10 to 12 is going to be the reader age. So the characters can be slightly older, 12 to 14 maybe. And that, you bleed a little bit over into the YA, so it's complicated. But young adult readers are going to be 13 to 18. So, your characters don't need to start younger than 15 because 13-year-olds don't want to read about 13-year-olds. That's just boring.
Boring. That was one of the biggest hills that I had to get over. I write a lot of middle grade and young adult. When I was starting with my middle grade stuff, I was like, oh yeah, I could have a really cool character that's like 10 years old or 9 or 8. And now, after all that I know, I'm like, oh no, I should definitely make them older. And then also, same thing with young adult. I started a young adult where the main character was 13 years old, 14, 12, and just about to turn 13. And it's like, no, you gotta raise it up. And it's like, oh man, that like changes in my brain everything about like that character now, which is just weird.
The prophecy is true.
But it's good. I think it's good to go in with the tools and that information to make your books better, to make them more marketable even, and to make it make more sense for your readers who you're going after. So
it does. And you are not all alone in that. A lot of people make that mistake and it is confusing a little bit. That's why it takes a lot of homework to figure out all this tedious stuff. It really is. Some of it's just homework to figure out the junk that goes behind the work because there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the creative beauty that you put out. But before all that, you've got to know how to get the dots and the T's and the letters on the page in the right order, not pointed with the wrong people and all that stuff. There's a lot of work going into it, isn't there? And you guys are lucky because you've got a writer's group built in with your friend group and everything. Everybody needs to have a group like that. They really do.
Yeah. And it's great. I just sent a book to both Timothy and Daniel, a very short book that we're going to actually play here on the podcast. And I'm getting feedback. So it's like fantastic. This group is the longest running group that I've ever been a part of. I've been a part of a bunch of different groups, but this is a group that we've always been together and always keep coming back together. And it's fantastic. And now that we have a podcast, it's like,
now we're stuck.
That's great.
I think you could get rid of us, Caleb. We just can't get rid of you.
No.
Because everything would fall apart.
I was thinking, I just keep, Daniel.
Here's Johnny.
Yes, which I honestly really appreciate. Everybody needs somebody like you guys in their life. I really appreciate it.
We all need more Daniel in our life. It's true.
So, Cindy, I have a question. What is the biggest tell if someone is submitted to you in the wrong genre and category? Like say someone submits a fantasy novel, but it's really middle grade instead of young adult. Maybe the author doesn't realize it yet and submits
how do you know?
As young adult. What's the biggest tell?
Well, we have a little question at the bottom of our query page online that says, who is the target audience for your book? And so if they say 12 and 13-year-olds, then I'll know that it's not a young adult book. And usually by the first 3 chapters, because we do ask for the first 3 chapters in a query, in the query package, I'll know what the age of the characters are in the book. Sometimes people do seem to intentionally try to slide the wrong age category in by calling it a young adult when they see that we don't publish middle grade. And they say young adult, and then they come out and say 10-year-old Michael has a problem. You know, like, I'm really sorry about that, but 10-year-old Michael is not a teenager. We love him very much, but we're going to have to pass on him. You know,
He's a fun
However,
kid.
old author has a real problem now.
we're not going to read it about his story. But that's all, you know. But it's not really hard to tell if the age category is wrong by the first 3 chapters, because usually the characters have been identified. That's pretty easy to find out. Genre, you know, sometimes people get a little bit twisty on their genre if it's complicated, but genre as far as fantasy or sci-fi, usually folks get it pretty close. But age category can be tricky when they're trying to decipher whether it's young adult or maybe new adult. When the age category is the question, I do recommend go ahead and commit. Just commit to an age category. And a lot of people want to say everybody will love my book, because it's hard to say, really, this is my target audience. But just go ahead and commit and know that it's always possible that other people are going to read the book, because truly they will. Adults read young adult books all the time. I do. And young adults will read adult fiction. I did.
True.
So there's really no question about crossover like that. You know, you don't have to tell us that that's going to happen, because it will happen. And if the book is fantastic, then it'll happen even more than average. So just tell me what your target audience is, and that'll tell me what you have in mind and what the category is.
Because what you're saying is that there is that age group is going to be your like big seller. Like the adult readers and the younger readers, they'll be outliers, but the main group of people are going to be the target audience that you're going for. Is that right?
Well said. Yes, very well said.
Okay. I work in marketing.
He does work in marketing, doesn't he? I forgot that. That's right. That is right. You guys do need to keep him close at hand, don't you?
Because
hopefully you guys are holding on to me because I'm a good friend, not just a good marketer.
Okay, yes. That was first.
Definitely.
That was for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Cindy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. We're going to have you on again because there are too many questions that I have that I really want to ask. So before we go, tell us, what are you reading? What are you working on yourself? And what should people be reading? And how can we support you?
I will tell you what I just finished reading is this book called Novel Study.
Cool.
By Kristen Tate. This is in-depth, taking apart some books piece by piece and then putting them back together again. Nice. This is heavy-duty stuff. It was taking apart a piece of art into shreds and then putting it back together again, but then once it was done, you felt like you could paint. You know, it was like that with some great new contemporary pieces of fiction. And I was really impressed. In fact, our editor's mastermind group that I'm part of, we had her on the other night and talked to her about it. And she's awesome. She's one of those people with so many degrees. I'm super intimidated by her, but she was great to talk to. She was super approachable and easy to chat with. And if you're ever ready for something really, really a lot to take on and that you want to take off little bites at a time, you know, because that's not something you sit down and read in 1 or 2 times. It's
your brain would melt out of your ears as you finish.
Right. I tell you what I'm about to read, and I haven't even started it yet, is the fantasy sci-fi. It's The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin.
Yep.
I don't know that book, and I've got that one ready to go right
That's
now.
in my list. I haven't read it yet, but it's in my list.
I'm anxious for that one too, because that one's really fantastic.
Awesome.
And you know what I'm working on? I'm working on painting my house. So I know that's not what you're going for,
Very
but
good.
I've got
What
some
color?
really-
What
oh
color?
no, the inside, different
Oh.
bits. But you know,
Okay.
my next project is a closet, and it'll just be white and so boring. But you know, bits at a time,
Yep.
bits and bits.
And then how can we support you? What can we do to support you?
You can keep doing what you're doing, teaching authors how to cover the basics in their queries, and you know what you're doing is great. I think this process is wonderful because sometimes the simplest stuff is the stuff that gets lost in the fray. You know, and all the focus is on the big picture, you know, the whole manuscript, the whole great book. The interview process gets pushed to the wayside, and then the query is just, oh, it's just such a bore. It's such a bore, it's not worth all the effort, but that's the only way to get in the door, and that's the only way I'm going to see the great books.
Right.
Is if somebody takes the time to put in a query with a few comps, where they tell me who they are, and they tell me that they have fantastic characters that I want to get to know. Yeah. And if you don't take the time to do it, I won't get to love your book. So that's what I want.
That's a perfect way to end. All right. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Thank you,
Thanks,
Cindy.
guys.
And we'll see you again next time. Thanks.
That'll be great. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Hi. If you want to watch something, watch this. Or maybe it's over here. I don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere.